Tuesday. Please explain the assignment that led to the work you're going to share with us.
Okay. Thank you for having me. And I didn't prepare any visual aids like everyone else here did, so you'll just have to visualize it in your mind's eye. I'm currently taking Magic 530 Crystal Healing with Lilith, which, by the way, just best class. I just love it. But a lot of the assignments that we do, in addition to investigating the different crystals, are we do healing scenarios for hypothetical clients. So in this particular case, the client has been working on recovering from past abuse. They're working through the resulting emotional trauma with a counselor. Although the counseling has been supportive, the client feels a bit stuck and wants to push past their current status. And they've come to us for help with safely releasing the past so that they can continue to focus on transformation to a healthier person. They have attended Sabbats in the past, so they're somewhat familiar with the Wiccan tradition. We were asked to select the crystals that we would use and prepare a scenario to use them. Would we do it in ritual? Would we call a full coven? Would we cast a circle? Why do we pick the crystals we picked? And that kind of thing. So basically, I started out thinking the stuck energy. Like everyone has had this thing which they can't get by, they can't get unstuck. And it's particularly difficult when it's wrapped up in trauma and abuse issues. So I would focus on the lower chakras and the heart chakra for this client. Past abuse tends to settle in the root and sacral chakra and cause feelings of instability, lack of vitality, lack of worth, and it increases fearfulness. Victims of abuse also often blame themselves, which is why I included the solar and heart chakra as part of the healing as well. So working with the solar chakra will allow the client to begin to recover their sense of self-worth and their personal power. And working with the heart chakra will promote forgiveness, self-love, and the ability to trust and let go of the pain and move forward. So with that in mind, that's going to be working with 4 chakras. I decided to pick crystals that would support healing in those 4 chakras. Since the client was comfortable with Wiccan rituals, I decided to conduct a ritual, but not in a group. I didn't feel it would be appropriate considering that the client was dealing with issues of abuse and trauma, to have an entire group. I mean, if it were me, I would not be comfortable. It's very hard to be that vulnerable. When you're working with a healer, it's almost like a counseling session. And so I didn't want the client to feel like they couldn't open up and really feel what was happening or let go or embrace what was going on around them. I did decide I would cast a full circle because that would allow us to build up and intensify energy around the healing as we worked. And also having the ritual would allow us to have sort of a starting point for the healing and an ending point for the healing. So it wouldn't just be like, okay, have a seat. Now let's get to healing type thing. There would be a start, middle, and an end. Additionally, generally when you do a Wiccan ritual, you call in deity. And so promises that you make to deity tend to be kept more than promises you make to yourself. You will honor deity's wishes and the promises you've made to them more than just something that you've told yourself. I'm not going to ever eat Cheez-Its again, not going to do it. You tell yourself that, it doesn't happen. The next night you're eating Cheez-Its. You tell Persephone that, and then you hear her go, you said you weren't going to eat Cheez-Its. So I want to make sure I included deity in the ritual. So now, getting to the crystals that I selected. So for the root chakra, well, I selected 4 crystals because I didn't feel like we needed to have an abundance of crystals. We just needed to have 4 really good crystals that were going to do what we needed to do. I chose black tourmaline, amber, red jasper, and rhodochrosite. So I started with black tourmaline because it is very good at removing negative emotions and it protects you from negative energy, both from within yourself and from without. And it helps break up energetic blockages. So it's perfect for someone who's feeling stuck, who's feeling like they can't move past something. And it helps relieve stress and tension, which is also good for when you're doing a healing. You want to be relaxed, you want the energy to be able to flow. And so it works primarily with the root chakra. It will break up a lot of that stuck energy that is in the root chakra. I also chose red jasper because it helps release shame around sexual issues and it helps you restore sovereignty and personal power. Victims of abuse and trauma have their personal power. They feel like their personal power has been just completely obliterated by the abuse. So it's important that they realize that the power lies with them and that they can do something about it. It also, red jasper also works very gently. It's very kind and gentle, and it works gradually, healing and bringing in the positive energy. So it's not just all of a sudden you get this explosion. It's this gradual healing feeling. Amber acts on emotional, energetic, and physical levels. So 3 different levels. And again, it's a transformer of negative energy, stagnant energy, blocked energy. And because it is organic in nature, it brings that connection to nature along with it. And as we know, nature is deity. So now you have this divine connection being brought in to help with the healing. And it works with both the sacral and the solar chakras. And then finally, I chose rhodochrosite, which is one of the best stones for promoting self-love and for doing emotional healing, particularly around issues of abuse and shame. And it would allow the client to recover and process and release the negative energies around the past trauma. And that's what you have to do to get past it. It's great in self-healing, which the client is going to be continuing with once the ritual's over. And it allows you to remember your unique gifts so that you can recover your self-worth, which is very important in this kind of healing. So my idea for this first healing session would be cast a circle, the first thing we would do is cleanse all the stones. Then I would ask the client to hold each stone so they could get a sense of the energy, make a connection to the stone while I explain to them how the energy works, what the stone is going to do for them, how it's going to help them heal. They would take as long as they needed to make a connection to the stone, to charge it with their own energy. And then I would lead them on a guided meditation, which is going to allow them to project into the future and visualize what they want to look like once they are healed. Once they have got past this, how do they see themselves? What do they want their life to look like? And once they know what their desired outcome is, then they can backwards engineer how they need to get there. The client would take the stones with them after the ritual and continue to work with them to continue to tune into those healing energies so that they could make progress, basically going forward. I thought that this was a really good exercise because it brought in, not only did it bring in the crystal healing aspect, but it brought in just this general, you have to empathize with the client. You have to consider it from their point of view. You can't just say, you're client 5, lie down and let me put these crystals on you and wah, 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 and ta-da, you're done. You have to think about it. You have to think, what is going to be best for this client? You cannot you can't just treat every client the same. They all come from different backgrounds. They all have different issues. They're all working on different things. They all need different kinds of healing. And you have to address each one individually. And as we've worked through this class, we've had several of these different scenarios. And each one is different, and it allows us to build up those muscles of empathizing with the client, getting down to what the root problem is, and then selecting the right healing modalities to work with them. And that's pretty much it.